An ethical conversation about trees and national parks is incomplete without placing it in a proper historical context. As Dr. Kang J. Lee, assistant professor at North Carolina State University, points out, many people think parks are trouble-free and democratic spaces where everyone is welcome, but they weren't created with the intention of them being available to non-white individuals. The establishment and maintenance of parks in Canada and the United States are rooted in a traumatic history marked by the forced removal of Indigenous and marginalized communities, barriers to access during the Jim Crow era, and the criminalization of cultural practices. For instance, the land that now comprises Central Park in New York City was once home to Seneca Village, a thriving community of predominantly African Americans, many of whom owned property. The erasure of Seneca Village exemplifies how the stories told by our national parks and monuments often fail to reflect the nation's rich and diverse history. Parks are more than spaces for biking and hiking. They serve as venues for family gathering, cookouts, jumping double dutch, and bird watching, as seen in the experience of Christian Cooper, whose bird watching was disrupted by racial profiling. While this module focuses on the technical aspects of GIS to identify equitable tree planting locations in Vancouver, it is essential to recognize how this work connects to the larger themes of Indigenous land rights, urban heat islands, and environmental justice. A consistent theme in these conversations is the slow acknowledgement of harm, both historical and ongoing, and the continued perpetuation of that harm through policy, decision-making, and exclusionary hiring practices. It is tempting to believe that we're merely inheriting a legacy of past wrongs, but as GIS professionals, we must confront how our work may continue to inflict harm on Indigenous and marginalized populations. We must ask ourselves, how can we design our analyses to address these persistent inequities? GIS, spatial patterns, and data disaggregation based on factors like income, race, age, and ability offer tools for course correction. These tools can help identify and address inequities in the distribution of urban forests, empowering marginalized and Indigenous communities in the process. Vancouver's story, for example, is rooted in the forced removal of Indigenous communities to create Stanley Park. These communities lived on and stewarded the land long before it became a park, a relationship captured by the concept of traditional ecological knowledge, or TEK. The uneven distribution of Vancouver's urban canopy today reflects systemic inequities shaped by historical policies such as restrictive land covenants, which mirror redlining practices of the United States. As Dr. Robert Bullard, the father of environmental justice, has shown, these policies have led to Black and Brown communities experiencing higher urban heat, poorer air quality, and lack of access to green spaces. This exclusion continues through contemporary practices that fail to prioritize these communities. Bernice Miller-Travis reminds us that if diverse voices are not included in decision-making, the resulting policies will not meet the needs of those most affected by environmental injustices. Similarly, Dr. Catherine McKittrick emphasizes that geography is not fixed. It is produced and shaped through our choices and actions. The decisions we make in urban forestry, therefore, shape both the physical landscape and the social realities of the communities who inhabit these spaces. Thinking ethically about GIS work means addressing not only the distribution of trees, but also the policies and processes that create those distributions. By acknowledging harm, engaging with marginalized communities, and integrating their perspectives and knowledge, we can create urban forestry practices that are truly equitable. Maps and forests tell stories. As GIS professionals, we have the responsibility to ensure these stories are inclusive, just, and empowering for all stakeholders.